everyone. I wanted to start off the presentation by showing you this incredible picture. This farm is in Brooklyn. It's in the Navy Yard, so that's overlooking Manhattan. And the Brooklyn Grange is a business which operates urban farms in Manhattan. This one roof is actually a 1.5 acre roof. They make things pretty big in the States. And there's about 300 to 400 mil of soil dumped on that roof. And across Manhattan, they're growing some of the most incredible food that you can think of, stacking enterprises and maximising all the space you can imagine. Now that, for me, has always been a symbol of the potential of small-scale farms. Now, the farm is also really special to me because I'm a new-gen farmer. I grew up in Melbourne, in the middle of the city. And farms like this, I kind of laugh, people call them gateway drugs to people in the city, but this is essentially how I got my foot, or we say our shoes off the carpet and got my boots on the ground. I actually cut my teeth farming here well over a decade and a half ago. Now, a lot can happen in a decade and a half, certainly how you look, so that's actually, that was me at the time. It's actually a great story behind that, which I can tell another time. But in the next 10 years, I travelled the world farming, fell in love with small-scale intensive farm production. This is my farm currently in Gippsland. We're a 1.5 acre vegetable farm, and we produce mainly for the restaurant and the grocery industry. We grow specialty vegetables. Over the years, over the last 10 and a half, like 15 years, I've also seen the proliferation of small-scale farms, which is interesting hearing the first presentation, because from my experience, at least farms of my size, there's been a real revival in Australia and across the world. And the 10 years that I was kind of practicing and growing in Australia, I've seen major seed companies not being able to supply small-scale like seeds at my scale that I needed, to now seed reps coming and knocking on my farm door. So the market's obviously growing. But what's also special about these farms is that for a lot of people who are, I think, really wanting to see more young gen and new gen farmers coming into the industry and lowering the age gap, these are the farms that are doing it. So my topic, which I was drawn to, is this deep passion to have more small-scale farms reviving communities. And I think the way to be doing that is to making them incredibly productive and profitable. So quickly to jump on two terms that I've been talking about. For small farms to thrive, they need to be both profitable and productible. Now, those terms often get thrown around to be the same things, but let's have a quick look. So profitability is essentially a measure of financial success. So what we're talking about there, we're talking about longevity, we're talking about reinvestment, and we're talking about growth. Okay. On the other hand, we have productivity, so a measurement of how efficiently we're using the resources. So in my travels, I visited farms that were claiming profitability, but it was pretty easy on the surface level to see that they were lacking productivity. I've also met farms and farmers who had highly productive farms, but were sharing with me, which I'll share later, my own story as well, were struggling with some profitability. So my takeaway straight off the bat is I do believe the inherent characteristics of small-scale farms, that we are positioned to be some of the most productive and profitable businesses in our industry. Okay, so in my research, I visited USA, Japan, UK, Israel, New Zealand, Ireland. I interviewed about 50 plus farmers, focusing also on entrepreneurs and business people who are also outside the farming sector. And on top of that, I started a podcast, which is something that everyone seems to do, so I'm happy to share that with you later on. Also, I keep hearing the theme going on over and over again. We were all seeking silver bullets. Didn't happen for me either. I went in there, I think, looking for shiny objects, the newer greenhouse, AI, robotics, what essentially would be the golden ticket that would get small farms profitable. Now, the reality is, as everyone keeps saying, that's not the case. And for those looking for a presentation on those things, it's definitely not going to be it, because my research actually found that certainly now, and that original presentation around the difficulties of farming right now with fewer and larger farms, more than ever we have to go back to basics. Okay, and I hone that in, we have to go back to basics, and it might even seem completely like, how did this guy have to travel the entire world to find out we have to go back to basics? But honestly, that's what kept coming up time and time again. So, 4 key themes that came up: business mindset, strong financial systems, strategic diversification, and collaborate to scale. So my time is ticking, so I'll jump on a few of them. So the first one that came up time and time and time again, business mindset. How does our mindset influence profitable outcomes? Okay, let that sink in. that is probably the one that I think is the most basic, and certainly in a room filled with very accomplished farmers who probably goes, oh, come on, Mikey, give us something more. But a lot of my research I was tailoring to first-gen farmers, small farmers who are in those first 5 years of their business, which is very turbulent, and we need to be supporting them with, I think, the best knowledge we can. And that's the number one advice, to be cultivating that business mindset. Now, all of us got into the industry because we love doing what we do. We love being out in the field. Essentially, we love being technicians. Now, already back in the mid-1980s, before I was born, Michael Gerber, who's a business author, I advise you to check him out, he already called this the small business trap. Business owners who operate inside their businesses as technicians. And we all do it because we love being out in the field. All of us love being the one driving the tractor. But the reality is, if we want to drive profitability, we need to be working on the business, not just in the business. So that's that number one takeaway, is that spend time working on, not in your business all the time. Find a mentor, okay? Create a board. There's no business too small to have a board. I came into this thinking, oh, there's, the bigger the business, you have to have the boards. Reality is, a small family business like mine, I've reached out to friends and got about 5 or 6 people that I constantly call and check in with about business things. So if you are an owner of a business and you see yourself as a technician, no worries, don't panic. But you may need to find yourself a manager if you really want to drive profitability in your business, okay? Big take home. The next one is financial systems. Okay, again and again, the numbers are kind of scary. I think in Australia, 50% of small businesses are closing their doors within the first 5 years. Okay, so if we want to see, again, more small farms, more new gen farmers coming into the industry, we really have to turn that over and be raising that up. And I think one of the main things is financial systems. We don't have enough people strategizing for profitability, building it into every essence of the business. So you've got your mindset and then practically bring it forward. So in order to do it, and sorry, actually, I'll jump back a step. I'll actually share a personal story about that. My farm, at one stage, and I think we're an incredibly productive farm, we were grossing $300,000 per acre of production. That's incredibly a productive farm right there. But the reality was, our profit margins were thin. So we were focusing so much energy on our gross sales, pushing gross sales. We hadn't been strategizing enough for what really was the profitable crops that we need to be focusing on, and creating profitable systems around our accounting. So what I found was Mike Michalowicz, people might have heard of him, Profit First is an accounting system. It's very well known across the board in many industries, but it hasn't seemed to touch the farming industry. So I really think small-scale farms can lean into that. Now, it basically tells farmers that sales minus profit equals expenses. It throws a completely different spin on how we traditionally look at how to run a business. Now, what it does, it forces people to build cash reserves, discipline, which is the number one thing that we need as business people, specifically now with tight margins, and it offers financial clarity, okay? So the takeaway for this is that profitability is a habit, okay? It's systems that make it stick. Invest in those systems and have them in your farm, and you'll find that profitability starts to rise up. Okay, the last one, and I'm hoping not going to go over time, but is strategic diversification. Now, a lot of farmers quiver at the thought of agritourism. Me, myself, being a production farmer, I just love getting out there and doing it, like I said before. But this photo is actually coming off an article from Vogue magazine last week, which I'll click again. That hasn't come up. That was actually from Vogue magazine, talking about regenerative farming actually being the new vogue, the new thing that people want to do. They want to come out and experience it. CSIRO is saying that agritourism in Australia will be worth $18.6 billion by 2030, so it's a $1.2 billion increase from now until 2030. So the market is absolutely huge. There's massive potential, and I'm finding that farmers are scared to tap into that. The tourism industry isn't. So they're co-opting a lot of the potential income that we should be getting for our small farms. So my encouragement here is, don't be afraid to diversify. Okay, it isn't a distraction, done intentionally, that's the key. Do it intentionally. Don't let it distract from your core business, okay? But doing it to leverage potential cash you wouldn't have otherwise in order to make your farm more productive. So we have dabbled in a bit of agritourism ourselves, and we've been funneling that money into greenhouses to make our business more profitable. So we've managed to find a agritourism venture which is no cost and zero input from us, and we're hoping to get about $20,000 clear profit next year through some online platforms. So I encourage you to look at it. So I am going to run over time. So these are my main takeaways. Cultivate a business mindset, align purpose with profit, systematise profit, strategically diverse and bolster core enterprises, and collaborate to unlock scale and reach new markets. Apologies, I hope you all read my research in your own time. That is my wonderful farm again. Small-scale farms can be not just niche and romantic, but they can really be a driver in our industry. And last off, a massive thanks to Hort Innovation and Nuffield Australia. You've been incredibly patient. I'm a 2021 scholar, so thank you very much for allowing me to test my ideas over those 4 years. Thank you very much.